For regular videos on ancient cultures and forgotten civilizations, please subscribe.
The city known as Taxila by the Greeks and Takshashila to the Indians was, and actually still is, a famous place. In ancient Indian, especially Buddhist literature, it is known as a famous seat of learning where religion and philosophy, literature and grammar and medicine, the art of war, and many other subjects were taught by famous teachers. If we take the word university in its technical sense, as an institution offering tuition in mainly non-vocational subjects, and typically having the power to confer degrees, Taxila probably doesn't fit. There was no campus with lecture halls or classrooms or residential units, and most everyone would agree with that. The first university in that sense was the University of Bologna, Italy, founded in 1088. But what if we just took the word university to mean a center for higher education and leave it at that? Would it be the earliest now? The most commonly cited example would be Plato's Academy, founded in Athens in 387 BCE. But does Taxila beat it? The first remains of human habitation at the site, it goes back to the late 4th millennium, early 3rd millennium BCE. And there are remains of Stone Age hunters there. And then you start to see in the late 3rd millennium sedentary culture, agriculturalists with Neolithic tools. The village was occupied continuously through the Bronze Age, and then in the late 2nd millennium BCE, you see the first city arise there on the mound Hathial. Okay, so the first town in Taxila was situated on the Hathial mound. It's the beginning of a very slow rise. That city lasted up through the Achaemenid period. That's the period of the Persian Empire. A second city developed on the Bur Mound, which is in that area too, and that's commonly dated to the late Achaemenid period and going up through the early Hellenistic period. Bur Mound level 4 and level 3 belong to the 4th and 3rd centuries BCE, and then levels 2 and level 1 to the 2nd and 1st centuries BCE. Now it's the Bir Mound city that is the Takshashila of legend. That's where we start to hear references to it from this period, even from Greek sources, that a lot was going on there. It was a very important city. To Alexander the Great and his men, it gave them their first taste of Indian society. Yes, they visited it. And they talk about it as a flourishing metropolis. The writer Arrian spoke of Takshashila as the greatest of all cities between the Indus and the Hydaspes River. And according to him also, it was very prosperous and thickly populated. And then you have the geographer Strabo, the Roman. He remarked that Takshashila was a very large city too, extremely fertile, governed by good laws. On the other hand, there's no mention by them of any architectural splendor, and the excavators correspondingly haven't found any remains of any monumental buildings from that period. And in the period after Alexander, Taxila became a part of the strong Mauryan Empire, and under stronger Indian influence as well. It's during the period of the Mauryan Empire that we find the earliest references to Takshashila as a center of higher learning in Indian texts. These references are from the Jataka tales, Buddhist stories, written between about 300 BCE and 400 CE. In the Jatakas, there's a story that a famed philosopher of old named Aruni was educated at Takshashila. Aruni is estimated to have lived in the 8th century BCE. So those who believe the Jatakas take this as historical and therefore conclude that Takshashila was a center of higher learning as early as the 8th century BCE. But historians do not automatically take as credible stories that come from centuries after the events they purport to describe. If we had something from the 8th century BCE, that would be one thing. But to have a story from hundreds of years later testifying to this, and not even a historical document but a folktale, well, that's not solid evidence. Keep in mind that when the Jatakas were written, the city was already a center of higher learning. It's feasible that the storytellers were projecting a current state of affairs onto the past.